Welcome to the Natural Genius podcast. We're here to help you tap into your natural genius. Let's go. You're about to meet the lovely Victoria, who has been recommended by Sarah Jade. Sarah Jade was on a previous episode and she was referring to leadership development or learning and development people who helped her when she was a young creative, learning how to manage staff. And she says of Victoria, "You taught me situational leadership when I was a baby creative manager, and it struck with me my whole career." I think it's quite incredible to reflect on a career and many different moments where it's had such a profound impact on people, and when it's to do with people, that has created big ripple effects across a large number of people that Sarah Jade has worked with, and also for each other leader that Victoria has worked with. It's a lovely moment to honour someone who has contributed. I hope you really enjoy hearing from Victoria. Victoria, this is such a pleasure to welcome you to the Natural Genius podcast.
Thank you, Sam. Delighted to be here. Delighted and intrigued and curious to chat.
Oh, it is such a pleasure. And tell me about where you're working at the moment and what you're enjoying about that.
Well, currently I'm working for a superannuation fund called UniSuper, and I've been there for the past 7 years. And I love it. And I use that word with intention because, and here I go straight away, we haven't even spoken about anything which we're going to do, but Simon Sinek, there you go, I've thrown out the first one. Simon Sinek talks about the difference between liking and loving, and he said love is that higher order connection. So every time I say it and every time I hear it with someone, I think, oh, there's something in that, like they are really connected to it. My kids might say it, or people at work. Anyway, I do love my job. So I work and I lead a team in learning and leadership development. And then look, before that, my career has really been in this space for just over 20 years, working for different retailers and companies. And then before that, I worked in the UK. So I actually moved across to the UK because I found the love of my life. He was living over there and I packed up and moved across to work with him. But it meant I gave up a bit of a different career projection. I was working at universities, so Monash University, Deakin University, and sort of heading down the path of an academic, which again, I'm a bookworm.
Whoa.
And one day I'll do my PhD, I'm sure.
In what subject, darling? What was what were you an academic in?
Well, so I just finished my undergrad. I'd done my honours year and I actually went to work for the universities then. So I really connected with some of my professors. And once I finished, I kind of went, I'm not really sure what to do. And so I started working as a research assistant and then moved into tutoring, and I dabbled in lecturing as well. So love learning. Clearly, it's,
Yes.
it's in blood. But when I found my, future husband, who I also knew, it's a very long story. But when I found him, I moved to the UK, and academia in the UK and in England, in London actually, it's really different and it's up a notch. Yeah. So
Sure.
I didn't have to have my PhD in Australia, but actually in the UK, you really did need it. So hence I moved from teaching leadership to working in the field, and like they say, all good things happen for a reason, but I've never looked back.
I mean, even just to be introduced through Sarah Jade, she's such an impressive person with so many different skills and across many different aspects of her career, doing many different things. And to have her talk about moments when you and another person gave her what she needed at the very start of leading others, that is a big deal. That is like big ripple effects, I think, Victoria, and a hat tip to you, because that would then affect many people.
Look, when SJ reached out and she said to me, I think she actually put up a LinkedIn post and said, I still remember the story that Victoria told me about this specific leadership model. And I wrote on, my comment was, oh yeah, like 20 years later or whatever it is, I still do the exact same, and I still do the exact same story because it works for a reason. But it is nice to know because, you know, leadership is one of those things, or leadership development's one of those things where you're in the room and they enjoy that moment, but you're not really sure what behaviour change is going to happen afterwards, and it's often intangible. But to know that that story connected with someone and they remembered it, it actually means a lot. And, you know, clearly I'm on a winning formula and I'll just keep going.
Job done. I don't know what are we going to talk about next? I'm so rapt to hear that for you. You would have seen a lot. And how interesting that you were studying it and now you're actually, for 20 years, having been in it, like in the room, in the conversations.
Yeah.
You would have seen so much. What is it that you love to do, and what are some of the outcomes that you've just been so jazzed by, like that you've just been so honoured to be part of, but also just so excited or proud of the people involved?
Yeah, for sure. Look, what I really like about working in companies with adults is that they're generally in the room because they want to be there, as opposed to the university students who had no choice. You know, when you work with adults in the room and so they're making a choice to be there. And I always say this is not about bums on seats. I would rather have less people in the room who genuinely wanted to be here than to fill the room just because, you know, we need to get, you know, 12 people on the seats. So, Sam, what I love, and I always say this, is that light bulb moment. You know, you look around the room and you're talking and you're interacting, they're doing group work, and you just kind of see this, happen on their faces. Sometimes it's a pause, sometimes it's a, oh my God, sometimes it's, you know, weeks later that they might come back to you and go, I've been thinking about it, and, you know, it spurs on a conversation. But I call it the light bulb moment, where that self-realization happens. And I always say to people, you can be a great leader, you must have self-awareness. So you have to know how you're coming across, how others perceive you, and you've got to go deep, hold the mirror up, because that's when the gold happens. And actually, that's when my job is done.
Amazing. And I wonder about, I hope you don't mind, I wonder about this with you, whether you've just got really strong intuition and where you pull this from, because you're in so many conversations. Now you have experience, like 20 plus years. And also through those 20 years, you've had experience to, you've pulled the question, the model, the sensing into that person from somewhere. I wonder, what do you think? Where do you think that kind of instinct or that sense comes from?
Well, it's funny that you use the word sense. So I think there are two ways that you can support people in leadership development. And one is that you can just go through the content. Yeah, it's more like delivery as opposed to facilitation. But, you know, that's where a lot of us start, where, you know, it's the chalk and talk. I think post-COVID, that just doesn't work. People don't learn that way. They don't have the time. And so what I prefer to do is get them in the room to talk about the insights from the content that they've learned. And that comes from also me having experience. This is not a, you know, fresh out of uni being able to do it. You've got to really know yourself to be able to then have that sense of, I know I'm saying this, but I'm not feeling the room's resonating, so I'm going to pivot and do something. Or I can see that there are some looks on their faces, so I'm actually going to stop here and go, okay, what's going on over there? But actually, I have to say, I did a course years ago. It was through Specsavers. And the course was run by a company called the Arbinger Institute. So it's really, really fascinating. And it's grounded in deep philosophical theory. And it says in a nutshell that the behaviour that you show can be one thing, but how you feel about it can be another. And people sense how you feel. Even if you're saying the right things, you're doing the right words, you're blah, 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 all that kind of stuff is right. The surface stuff looks perfect. People sense, and look, I call it the bullshit radar. saying, oh yeah, you know, that's great work, but you're thinking it's not. They will sense that through your micro habits, the slight
Yes.
intonation, the pausing, the do I look up as soon as they come in the room, or do I give it a second? Do I address them in the room? All these things, people have a radar. So you
Yes.
spoke about that sense. For me, when I do leadership development with people, I don't do it with them, by the way, we do it together, but I say to them, it has to come from within, because people will pick up on it and then you break the trust.
Yeah, wow. And so tell me more about models that you've used, like the one that you use with with SJ. Also, I want to hear about what else you love about it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So let me start there. What I love learning about, what I'm really getting into right now is trust. There are many models out there, you know, many models and many theories, and probably Patrick Lencioni talks about the 5 dysfunctions of trust. He's got a flipped model, which is a more positive narrative, which is the 5 behaviours of a cohesive team. And regardless of which version you use, that bottom layer is on the fact that if you want to have a high performing team, if you want to have a good relationship, you have to start with trust. And I just find it right now pretty fascinating in terms of what it is, how it's built. You can give it, doesn't mean it's returned. It's at a point in time. It's not those big grand gestures that make trust. A lot of people think that's the tick, I've done it, but it's the small gestures that are consistent over time that create that trust. Anyway, if I went back and did my PhD, I was actually thinking about this on the walk home last night. I would really like to do it around trust. I feel like in today's society, it's the one everyone wants, and you can't just get it. So anyway,
you are so on point. I feel like with all of the AI developments and use, the way businesses are shaping, I think trust relates to speed. And when I follow Jack Dorsey, who started Twitter, or now X, recently, his way of setting up teams is really different. For years now, I wonder if you might be similar. I thought the future of the workforce was task forces, like people coming together with special experience and skills and forming teams, and then breaking out, I guess, the extra areas of an organisation. There's still some teams that need to be in place always. The way that he talks about the teams that he's setting up, especially because there's AI is so integrated in them, Victoria, it's beyond hierarchy. It's actually into this person needs to be responsible and to be trusted for the delivery of these particular aspects. And they will be overseeing a whole lot of agents as well. So I think you're totally on the money with trust. I think that would be an amazing PhD to do, should you choose to do that.
Look, if ever I win the lottery, because, you know, you do a PhD in Australia and you don't get any more money for it, but for me, it's my bucket list. And years ago, I wrote down my bucket list. Anyways, I would, it is definitely up there. We just have to win the lottery to do it. But I can think of nothing I would rather do than go into a library like, you know, the uni library. I just love the smell and the quietness, and to be surrounded by all this amazing learning, and then just to read through and completely absorb myself of it. Also, I have 2 children and I'm generally exhausted most of the time. So I don't know when this is going to happen. But, you know, you asked what it would be, and I'm just finding, trust is something.
So beautiful.
And you're right, like the AI piece is really interesting because it's easy to pop something into Copilot or Claude and then deliver it as your own, but people can sense when it's not. And if people consistently rely on that, then the trust is broken, even though you might have the right intent. So, you know, the world is demanding so much more of us, and for leaders, it's, you know, having lots of different lenses and lots of different hats and trying to do it all. And you said quickly. So, you know, the it's hard these days, but I think that if you don't have trust or self-awareness, then you'll just lose yourself. Yeah. You'll just become an agent yourself almost.
Yeah. Oh, wow. I mean, it's such an interesting time. Tell me more about what's worked. If you think about all the different leaders that you've worked with, what are some of the aha moments that you've observed, or what are some of the models or tips that have worked for them? Because I'd love to pass that on to others. That would be good fun.
Yeah, for sure. Look, academically, I last picked up a book on management. And there's actually a book called Management, and you can't look at it these days. I mean, the theories are all kind of still there, but they're so old, and the world's changed so much. So I don't really. I remember bits and pieces about what I learned at uni, but a lot of that is clearly it's very textbook. It's the people will do this and you will say this and this will happen. That's absolute bullshit. Yeah, because when you get into a workforce, you've got 10 different personalities, and that textbook, you think, oh my god, that's what
and 10 different lives with all of the machinations going on in them.
Yeah, for sure. And we encourage people to bring their whole self to work, but that's not in the textbook. So look, I stand by one leadership framework, and it's actually the one that SJ was talking about when when she reached out. Brilliant. It's a model called situational leadership, and it's by the Blanchard companies, and it basically just says there's not one style of leadership. There are 4, depending on the person's capability and depending on their confidence. And, I talk about this with our leaders. I've clearly spoken about it at every company I've been at, and I do that for a reason, and the reason is it's a model that works. So, I would really encourage anyone listening to this, if they want to be a great leader, because generally you learn from the person that you're reporting into or the ones you've had. There might be some gold there, but you've got to find your own way as well. But I would start with this model because it's really great for understanding, how do I do this thing called leadership? And honestly, every time I share it with someone, again, that light bulb moment, they're like, oh my God, that totally makes sense. And I'm like, yes, I know. That's why we're talking about it. So that's like a framework, though, when you don't know where to start. That's a really good, okay, this is good for giving me some structure to how I, lead. But I've had some doozies of leaders, right? We all have, and we all learn from them. If I think about the ones who, some of them have been quite soul crushing. Like, you walk away and go, that was a bit toxic, and that was the right thing for me to do, to leave. What I've learned from it is there's no trust.
Yes.
Yeah, they're covering up something because they don't either trust themselves or have the confidence, and this thing oozes out of them. It's not a nice feeling. And again, the right behaviours are there. They're saying exactly what you think is right. If it was a performance situation on camera, they've done exactly what they need to do, but actually the sense is they're not a good person. So I've learned, and I am very thankful I've had some not so great leaders to learn from. I think that's actually important in terms of life. I've just had a leader, she's just left, and her style of leadership was completely different to anything I ever had. And when I first started working with her, I said, we're going to drive each other crazy. I'm quite structured. You are not. And it was, there was that tension in the beginning, but we had known each other a long time. So there was psychological safety to call it out and go, I need you to do more of this. And she'd say, and I need you to back off. And I go, okay, great. So it was a really good, honest conversation of trying to kind of figure out, how do we do this together?
Wow.
I learned from her that I need to let go of my my structure and my leadership, and I need to trust a little bit more. And she was ace to work with. Like, she was very trusting, completely honest. She was firm. She was fair. And her leadership philosophy, she actually said this on a number of occasions. She just said, just don't be a dickhead. And I thought, oh my God, that's
I've heard others take similar versions of that, and it's so on point. Do you think some of your structure is about speed?
Yeah, for sure. And so structure does help, and I think also you need to have a foundation somewhere, and having that structure is really useful. I just learned that there are different ways to lead, and so it was just really refreshing. And again, I take from that the bits I really liked and that, worked for us, that I could do authentically. I don't want to be a copycat of someone else, but I liked certain parts of her around that. I liked certain parts from other leaders. And, I'm still finding my way, and I'm not perfect in terms of a leader. I have a person in my team at the moment who we have a joke, but he gives me feedback all the time on lots of different things. And I've said to him that the joke is, okay, you can do one bit of feedback a day. And so he has a ticketing system now. He doesn't really, but we joke about the fact that he gives me lots of feedback. And I actually say to him, it's really good and healthy that we can do this. Sometimes I say, okay, that's enough for today. But what it says is we've got this, there's a relationship, and it's just like blur. We can be completely normal with each other. And I think that's rare.
Well, two things. So I think that what I was just, my last question was just understanding in that relationship with the leader, how you softened your structure. What you were saying is that you'd learnt from her, you picked up some of her aspects and then softened some of the structure pieces. My question was around, did you get just as much speed as you usually get because you softened your structure with respect to her, and possibly because the trust was there, you knew that she was going to do what you needed her to do. And then bringing your whole self to work is such a privilege.
Yeah, and you're right. Like, we spend so much of our time at work, and like I said, I love my job, but I could do this job anywhere. Like, the job is the job, right? Whether it's in retail or academic, whatever it is. But the people that you work with and the culture that you are in. Actually, one of my first questions whenever I go for an interview is, what's it like to work there? And of course, I know most people are doing that these days. They've cottoned on. But I also ask, what's the leader like? Like, I have to have someone that I can learn from and who's, going to work with me. But it's so important to enjoy what you do.
Speaking of which, what about outside work? What do you love doing? I think I spotted a runner or your first a year ago, a fun run that you did. But what do you like doing out? Like, what is the whole human aspect of Victoria? Tell me more. Tell me about these beautiful children of yours as well.
Oh, yes, they are gorgeous. In fact, our daughter turns 13 tomorrow, which just is scary, really scary.
So, we're in the teenage years. Woo-hoo.
Yeah, I know. Well, you say woohoo. We're starting to get a glimpse of anyway. So what it means is I really have to check myself, because what she's going to start to do is kind of, get really fiery every now and again, and one of us will be in the firing line. And so there's that real social awareness to go, okay, now is not the time to ask her to do something. It's just a nod and smile. So anyway, I have two children, so almost 13-year-old and a 10-year-old son. And, outside of work, well, I mean, we own a restaurant, my husband and I. So I say we because I financially own it, but I don't do anything there. But yeah, so we own a restaurant.
Tell me more.
So it's it's not little, I should say. Actually, it's a fairly big size. It's in it's along sort of Bayside in Melbourne, so it's in Mentone. It's called the Corner Store.
The Corner Store.
And my husband, who I've known for, I think, I've known him for over 30 years actually. He's always been in hospo, and around about 10 years ago, he said, right, I don't want to work for anyone else anymore. I want to do this. And so yes, we own a restaurant. So I say that because, it's, with him working weekends and nights, not all the time, but often, and then with the two children, and then I work full time, there's not a whole lot of other time, but running is when I run, I feel like I can breathe. It clears my head, and I do love running. I don't do it that often, but I do love just to go for a run. And in fact, sometimes Damien will say to me, if I'm a bit cranky, you need to go for a run. And I'm like, yes, good, I do. Yep.
That's an easy statement. That's an easy statement that helps both of you.
It is, yeah. We have a pretty good relationship. So, we know each other very, very well. So he knows when I need to go for a run. He does. But where you would have seen the photos on LinkedIn, the running, I do some volunteer work at Women in Super. I'm a board director and chair of the PD committee, and so I like to support their events. And Women in Super were one of the co-founders of the Mother's Day Classic. So the kids and I have started a tradition where we go and we do the run on Mother's Day at 7 in the morning.
Oh, I love that. It must be a really great atmosphere. Is that the case?
It is amazing, Sam. So for anyone who hasn't been down there, and these are held regionally and in all the capital cities on Mother's Day, it is actually amazing. And I think to myself, it's Mother's Day, I'd love to have a sleep in, but actually this is our new tradition. The kids and I run together. We did the 8K this year, which I think is pretty damn good for a 12 and a 10-year-old. And we'll just continue to do it, mostly because the restaurant is busy on Mother's Day. So he's up at 6 and he's gone. So I don't have anything for the kids, so I have no choice. But we do love it, and the atmosphere is incredibly warming. Wow.
To be in a warming atmosphere like that is a real pleasure. It is. It takes. It doesn't happen all the time. So yeah, grab onto that and keep doing it. I wonder how many years or decades you'll do that for. That sounds fun. And did running start when you were younger? Have you always been a runner, or did you pick it up later?
Yeah, look, I probably did. Yeah, around about probably mid-teens I started doing it. And I'm a runner, as in I love it. I'm not one of those running bodies where you just know that they could, smash out a marathon tomorrow. It takes effort to do it, but it is for my head that I do it more than anything. There is just something really lovely about it. The other thing I do, and I say this knowing I've not done anything, but I have a guitar that I received for Christmas 2 years ago, and I have not done anything. So I'm saying this is almost like a commitment to go, come on, Victoria, pull your finger out and do something. It started because I got a ukulele. That's pretty easy to learn. And that was my COVID years in which, the children, because everyone was home so often, said,
so you can play the ukulele.
Yeah, it's really easy though. It's super, super, super easy.
Oh, I'm so impressed though. I've not been able to, that sounds amazing. So then you're going to transition from that into the guitar.
This is the theory. Yes. And look, I've seen my sister-in-law do it, and I have to say she's very, very musical anyway, but it was the inspiration to go, okay, as we get older, like we need to keep doing things that give us pleasure. And so I've always wanted to do it. And I think I just need to do these things now, or it's going to get too late and I'll go, oh, I should have. I don't want to be that. I want to go, I gave it a bash, even if I was terrible. And, I can kind of do it. And we love camping. So my idea is, my theory is that I just sit around the campfire with the guitar singing.
Oh, this is a great theory. Oh my goodness. Tell me, where do you go camping?
Oh, Sam, this is where the podcast could go on forever. We've taken.
This makes me so happy.
We've taken the kids out of school for a whole term and done half a lap of Australia. So that was.
Which half?
So we did the West Coast, all on the Gibb River Road.
That's so good to hear, because I would have expected, sometimes I'd expect it was the east, that people sometimes start with the east, but the west, well done.
Yeah.
So the Gibb River Road, you said?
Yeah. So the Gibb's just an off-road, completely off-road, where there are gorges, one after the other, and they're all completely different. And it was hands down the best experience of our lives. It was phenomenal. Australia is such a beautiful country. And even last night we were looking at something, because we're heading up to Cape York next year. And I said to my husband, God, I just wish we could go back to any one of those places in Western Australia up the top. It's stunning.
Oh, wow. So Gibb River Road, tell me, because I've done around Broome and Kununurra. I was lucky enough to canoe the Ord River over 3 days in south of Kununurra. It was just amazing, just so beautiful. And so where's Gibb River? Help me with my geography.
So it's basically between, I'm testing myself here, I can picture it on a map, but it's basically between Broome and kind of Darwin-ish. It's not quite, but it's kind of that very top.
I'll get the map out after we get off.
Yeah.
You said that you're going to the Cape next year as well. And so how far and how long will that be? And is it with the kids as well?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's with the kids. We also go with one other family. So we go with my husband's brother and his children and wife. We did Tassie 2 years ago. And so Cape York next year, probably we're negotiating at the moment, but probably 4 or 5 weeks.
Right.
Getting older, they're in high school, it gets a bit harder. However, we want to do it. Like, we want to keep living our lives, and it's a really great experience for children. The confidence.
Oh, it's so obvious.
Yeah.
I'm just so very impressed. And tell me, are you driving up from Melbourne to the whole way?
Look, I'm not, Sam. I do the whole fly in. So my husband will drive up probably with our son because he's in primary school. He can take a bit longer off. My daughter and I will join them probably in Cairns. Again, because they're, she'll be in year 8 and it starts getting a bit harder in terms of high school and not wanting to miss too much. So we'll do the fly in, fly out probably from Cairns, but that's when we'll do the East Coast. However much we can on the way down and across to Ngari as well, so Fraser Island.
Wow. I've got a dear friend, Jeff Brown, and he took his 3 boys and they had this Instagram account and it was called something about dirty feet, and the surname's Brown, so it was like something about brown and dirty feet. Anyway, and the 3 boys, like the photos had all these amazing sights with them traveling around. I think it was 3 months. And then the kids' feet were getting dirtier and dirtier. And it was just the best. And they're just beautiful. 5 of them are just beautiful people. And I really loved that they shared their trip with all of us through Instagram. And I loved that the kids' feet got dirtier and dirtier. It just felt like as young teenagers and younger than that, they had this incredible life experience and red dust.
Yes. We are still finding red dust in crevices of the car, on clothes. It just doesn't come out. But we all go, oh, remember, and then it spurs on a conversation. So, we love it. Showers become optional on those things. They start off, and we also had visions of, we would teach the children every day 20 minutes of maths. I think it lasted about 5 days before we just gave up and, we just had fun and had life experiences instead.
Oh, wow.
Very, very rich.
You are such a treat. I love that honesty of talk about building trust quickly, Victoria. You are it's such a pleasure to spend time with you. Is there anything else that you'd like to pass on to others?
The philosophy that I have is that I think you just need to just be yourself in life. Grab those opportunities where you can do something. Don't sit on the edge of your bed at 80 or 90 and go, I wish I had have done it. You do it. So I think that there are so many opportunities. In Australia, we're so lucky. This is an amazing country on many different levels. And I think sometimes we forget that in this age of it's all about, getting stuff done and quickly moving things and AI and tech and whatever. But we're really lucky where we live, and sometimes just being grounded and appreciating what we have and enjoying life. Sometimes we forget that in the hustle of it. And so I think it's important to just be so appreciative of life. That sounds
wow.
Really,
I think that's so perfect, especially because it helps me to imagine you stepping into a room and that could be quite intense, and being able to carry that sense into the room and keep doing these adventures, because surely that helps to bore you and helps to increase your sparkle. And sometimes when we do get busy in life and in the doing and in the everyday, to take yourself out and go to the top of Australia and have adventures with your 3 loved ones. That sounds really important. I was listening to something this morning and it was, sometimes people project into their futures and create around goals, and this was, how do you want to grow? What is it that you want to learn and experience in life? And I thought that was such a lovely question to spark interest. So
I want to grow happy. That's it. Just be happy.
Mate, it sounds like you're already there and you'll keep doing that. Thank you again for your time.
You're welcome. Thanks, Sam.
Thanks for listening to the Natural Genius podcast. Please share this with anyone who came to mind and visit us at naturalgenius.com.au. Thanks so much.